Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal. Happy Friday. I hope everyone's doing well out there today. We've got a couple stories to get to. I'm back on the West Coast after my Nashville trip, which was fantastic. And we've got a very interesting conversation between Jason Tartick, of course, from Bachelorette, with Sheena from Vanderpump Rules. If you enjoyed The Bachelor, if you enjoy Vanderpump Rules, if you enjoy one or the other, or both, or none at all, this is going to be interesting. We talk ratings and how Vanderpump Rules, this little engine that could on Bravo, a very small cable news network, may be beating Bachelor, which of course is on a giant network. How could this have happened? I'm going to share my point of view. We're going to get into it right now. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals and also patreon.com/Dave Neal if you want behind the scenes content. I talk a lot about my Tennessee trip, what we've got in the works. You know, Monday night I'm actually heading to New York City, and I'm going to need all of you guys to let me know if you're in town here. I've got my Facebook community, Dave Neal's community, free community on Facebook, and I just posted just right now a roll call. Did I spell roll call or is it whatever? Either way, for upcoming New York City shows. I'm going to be there on Tuesday. Big show on Tuesday. Going to have a lot of people coming out. We're going to do a meet and greet. We're going to hang out afterwards. It's going to be a ton of fun. Tickets are actually pretty cheap too. So I'm going to give you all that information. Link in the comment section if you want to buy tickets for that. Letting you know right now. There'll be some other shows in New York, but that'll be the big one. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, the thumbnail that I had said Chris Harrison says Vanderpump is better than Bachelor. We don't have an actual quote from him, but I'm going to share what Jason Tartick says that Chris Harrison said. And also, I want to give credit where it's due on the production quality of this here podcast. We have fill lighting, we have backlighting, we have professional audio microphones, we have split screen high definition video. Bravo, this is the way to a successful podcast. Let's have a listen. And of course, Sheena has been on Vanderpump Rules. If you don't know, it's a show about people that worked in the restaurant industry here in West Hollywood, California. And of course, everyone's cheated on everyone, relationships, everything's been so toxic. But this year, specifically on season 10, had the Scandival drama, which was when Tom Sandoval hooked up with his longtime girlfriend's best friend, and they did it for months. They lied about it, and we've only seen part 2 of a 3-part reunion, but it's incredible numbers, and we're going to listen to that right now.
Do you know anything about recent ratings? And then I need you to predict what's going to happen for the finale and the reunion just when it comes to rating and business.
So every week, we've been breaking our own record. Last week was our highest rated episode in 10 years ever. I'm predicting that tonight's finale will be the highest rated Bravo show ever.
That ever?
Yeah.
Ever. Well, give me a rating.
It's over 2 million. I think live will be over 2.
Wow. And what was... like from what you know about ratings and viewers, what do you think like an average, if I took every single episode over the last 10 years, what do you think the average viewing audience has been? To just give a comparison.
I would say if we're averaging from our lowest like pandemic season to our highest, on average, maybe around 750.
So this is like...
which is still good because
good.
We've had lower in the bad seasons.
Yeah.
But then we've also been over 1 million in the good seasons.
So we're going to talk about the idea that Bachelor is slipping in the ratings as terrestrial TV is kind of having its last breaths, if you will. And then how Bravo, a show that's 10 years old, and again, it's kind of a black swan event in the sense that it's such a crazy dramatic story that's taken over the real cultural, I mean, it's just absolutely wild and super toxic when you actually watch it. I mean, it's like you need a cigarette just watching this stuff. But we're going to get into the pay that they receive on Vanderpump versus Bachelor, because it could be that Vanderpump's a more expensive show to produce once we break down the numbers. We'll check that out in a second. So it could be that Vanderpump's more expensive to produce and advertisers pay less money on Bravo because it's not network TV. We don't know that to be true, but that's just a theory as to why a show like The Bachelor, which has dwindling ratings, can still be such a beast of a show on a major network.
So I think we were just under 1.5 for last week. The 18 to 49 demographic was like, I think 0.56. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's had to totally impact your professional world, your financial world, your personal world, all that. One quick story I remember, I was talking to Chris Harrison recently, and he referenced the Vanderpump drama, and he's like, that used to be, like in the heyday, 5, 10, 15 years ago, that was The Bachelor. And his feeling and sentiment is that it's just fallen off.
And it's fallen off because we haven't had an event as crazy as the Tom Sandoval cheating story. We've had Colton jumping over the fence. We've had a few other issues that have been, big water cooler stories. But until we get something that's that wild, and it makes you wonder, Vanderpump is rewarded for its drama. Contestants on The Bachelor kind of, they get a lot of hate online. Not to say that the Vanderpump people don't get hate, but Vanderpump is almost like a world that exists in a snow globe, right? And so they're all debaucherous, but they're only hurting themselves, versus when we watch something like, say, a season of The Bachelorette, and we have someone like Chad Johnson being like, I'm not even into you, and oh my God, we hate Chad Johnson, F you, Chris Harrison. We get offended in a way that I don't see that happening on Vanderpump. I see people watching Vanderpump, and don't get me wrong, people are offended now at Tom Sandoval and those cheating allegations. Not allegations, they happened. But I see Bravo audience watching with popcorn and feasting on that drama, whereas I see Bachelor audiences being a way more spread out niche. So, and I could be wrong, this is just my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think. But with Bravo, they have a very specific demographic. It's mainly women and it's a lot of gay men. I love it. I'm straight. It just goes to show anybody can love this show, by all means. But that's the demographic. That's like what they cater to, is people that are in this scene in West Hollywood, and maybe not Bravo specifically, but Vanderpump. That's a very gay-friendly scene. So it's a young culture of drinking and hanging out, and it's very progressive in those ways. Whereas The Bachelor is this heterosexual love story, which is nothing wrong with that. But it's kind of like the princess meets the whatever. It's such a boring love story that, if anything, The Bachelor could probably learn from Vanderpump and make it a little bit more 2023. Just my thoughts.
When you think about what the show has done, from the average of like the 500 to 750,000 viewers typically, like, do you think there's any way, there's a lot of conspiracies that producers kind of knew about this and maybe pushed it? Or do you think this was just like the perfect storm for the business side of things?
Definitely the perfect storm for the business side, because
in the way it's a perfect storm in that the producers didn't know about this drama is because they weren't prepared to shoot. All of this came out when it wasn't during the season. If the producers knew, they would have had a camera crew at the venue ready to catch Ariana, because of course Ariana found out Tom cheated while she was at his concert.
Now watching back, now knowing what we know, it's so obvious. But at the time, if you have Ariana and myself, the two people closest to Tom and Rachel, saying this isn't weird, then no one else other than Katie and Lala thought it was weird. Production didn't even necessarily think it was weird. Now watching it back, knowing what we know, it's so obvious. And it's so crazy that they were so disgusting to just be doing this in front of all of our faces.
Right.
Like under the radar, but right out there at the same time.
And then use you as pawns along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wildly deceitful. It's just insane manipulation.
And if you aren't familiar, what they're referencing is this idea that Tom Sandoval and Raquel were trying to find a way out of Tom's relationship with Ariana, and they were going to try to like float their relationship starting after the breakup. But of course, they were caught before they could confess and admit to everything. And they weren't able to get their story together because on the reunion, they were interviewed separately because Andy Cohen is a detective. So just fascinating stuff. Now, Vanderpump Rules Scandival finale episode hits series high ratings for Bravo. So we've had the finale, and now we've had 2 of the 3-part reunion. The finale, of course, we had Sheena there saying she thought it would get about 2 million viewers. Vanderpump Rules viewers did not dip out of the season 10 finale. The ratings for the May 17th episode hit series highs for the Bravo show. The episode, which showed the fallout of the Scandival, drew a combined audience of 4.1 million viewers on Bravo, On Demand, and the Peacock platform within 3 days. Of that viewership, 2.4 million were in Bravo's target audience of 18 to 49, reaching another series high. Vanderpump Rules ratings buoyed those for Andy Cohen's Bravo talk show, Watch What Happens Live. So this is what's so good about Vanderpump, and I've been saying this for years before I knew that Bravo was doing this. Vanderpump Rules, Andy Cohen produces these shows. Then he has Watch What Happens Live with a live audience. I mean, I'm not saying I've got the skill set that Andy Cohen has, and I'm not pitching for this either. But if I hosted a live show that had a live studio audience and I got to interview people and talk about them real time every episode of The Bachelor, this would be fantastic. The other thing Vanderpump does that The Bachelor could, should, and I think will do, maybe eventually, if they have their smarts about them, is that Vanderpump releases the next day the extended version of the episode. In the next week, they release it. So if the episode's 60 minutes long, they'll release the 75-minute version and give more clues and more nuance to conversations. They'll also release it in the non-edited version. For an editor to edit down to what they want on TV, and then add more to that, that's not that hard for an editor. Editors are always deleting things because they have to cram it into this terrestrial TV sort of mold. So for Vanderpump on their streaming network, Peacock, afterwards, for them to come in and say, oh, here's some additional stuff. The Bachelor throws out so many good storylines, so many good interviews, sound bites to an audience that would gladly consume more of that content. So The Bachelor's actually putting out a fire, whereas Vanderpump is adding logs to the fire. That's one of the reasons why and trust me when I say this, I truly believe as an audience member, what I'm saying right now would be so valuable for them to listen to. But I think Bachelor producers have the same problem a lot of politicians have, is that they're not searching for long-term solutions. They're just searching for how to get through this next episode. A politician isn't trying to solve the debt ceiling for the next 20 years. They're just trying to solve it for the next election. The Bachelor producers, their jobs aren't secure, so they're just trying to make a good season. They're not thinking long-term about growing storylines and deeper bandwidth, really, versus Vanderpump. Vanderpump's able to capture more hours of content per viewer per week, and for the same production cost, maybe a couple extra bucks to pay the editors, but you can put that anyway. So I think my point's made here that I absolutely think Vanderpump is more culturally relevant right now. The other thing Vanderpump has going for it is it's the same cast every season. Whereas The Bachelor, it's like we have Charity left over from the previous season. We had Zach left over from the previous season. But if you don't like that one person, you might not get ratings for the show. Versus Bachelor in Paradise, which has worked out better because we bring in all the hits for different types of people, as far as the dramatic one, the hopeless romantic, whatever. We bring in all those different people, and I think that plays better to today's world. Bachelor in Paradise could probably pick up a lot of the Vanderpump Rules style of editing right now and add extra content, and they could absolutely have a Watch What Happens Live type of show. Even if it just airs online, they could air that right after their show release. I mean, it's so foolish, and they're leaving so much meat on the bone. This is like going to a ribs place, taking one bite of rib and putting it back, and I'm like, there's more to that rib. Why don't we eat it? But Bachelor has had a good season. We saw here in the ratings, The Bachelor hits multi-platform ratings high with season 27 premiere this past season, but their key demographic, they have a 2.39 rating for the 18 to 49 key demographic, whereas Vanderpump, she said 0.57. So as big as Vanderpump's been, we see that it's hard to compete with a beast like network TV. But what you look at is people find Bravo. People go there to find the show, to go watch it. They watch it on Peacock the next day. I know some people watch Bachelor on Hulu, but a lot of people will just have ABC on because they were watching Jeopardy beforehand, and that's just the channel they keep on. And that's the problem with network TV, is that they don't isolate their audience as directly as cable channels, because the cable channels have a built-in niche. I don't know if this makes any sense to you guys, but that's how I feel about all that. Now, when we look at the pay here on Bachelor, you're looking at between $125,000 to $200,000 is what you pay the lead of the show, and then everybody else isn't paid. Bachelor in Paradise, I think they're paid a couple $1,000s a week, so very small pay. Vanderpump, the Hollywood Reporter reported in 2020, that the core cast of Vanderpump makes around $25,000 an episode after negotiations in 2017 and 2018. The magazine didn't specify which cast members that is, but we assume that it's the original guys, the OGs. This figure accounts for her $2 million net worth. Vanderpump, they're opening up the wallet. And again, this was pre-pandemic. This was before Scandival and all these other issues here. So if there's about, their Vanderpump has a bigger budget for cast pay than The Bachelor, but also they've got probably, like I said, I don't know for sure how much they're making on their advertisers, but clearly they run an efficient, very profitable setup. I don't think their production quality is as high as The Bachelor. They're shooting in people's homes. They're shooting in restaurants that are owned by the cast members, Sir, Pump, Schwartz and Schwartz, Tom and Tom, Ariana, and whatever, all these things. So they've got a real lean system here that they're working with. Neither show is going away anytime soon. In the next video, we're going to actually discuss some of the ways that Bachelor producers in their social media team seem to be catching up to times. So when a show like The Bachelor is as successful as it is, it doesn't want to change too often because cash cows don't change. They're risk adverse. But finally, because they've had a little bit of a slip in the ratings, if you want to say it lightly, they're finally starting to catch up to times, tagging contestants' Instagram accounts and letting people in on the parasocial relationship that's already happening. Now The Bachelor's kind of joining that party. All right, we're going to have more content coming to you guys. Today's afternoon Bachelor Rush Hour, I'm going to discuss some more about my trip to Tennessee, what we have lined up for the future. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'll give you a sneak peek right now, but check this out on my Instagram. I had a nice fun interview yesterday with this guy. There it is. Just shot another Driving with Dave with fellow Neal here, Ryan Neal, man. That's right. So if you want to go see that clip, that's going to be next Friday. Ryan Neal from Bachelor's Listen to Your Heart. A great conversation. He's got a new song coming out next week. You guys are going to love it. We premiered it on Driving with Dave. All right, more content coming to you guys right after this.